Well, hello and welcome to episode 90 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here as always with Michaela. Michaela, how has it been going? We are making our way through summer. We had kind of our last weekend before really kind of fall starts kicking in. The weather cooled off. Some kids are getting ready to go back in school, including your own. But what have you been up to? Are you ready? Are you ready for school time to get started?
I'm ready for school time. I think this break in the weather though is a lie. I think it is
It
fake
is a lie.
news.
It's a
It looks
misdirection, as they
yeah,
as
it
they
looks
say. Yeah.
beautiful. Like it looks like it's going to be gorgeous for like a week and a half, and then it's going to go back up to 137 degrees, and I'm going to be
Mm.
frizzy and sweaty and gross. But I have done some good things. I finished Blackbird, which I was a series that I had started when we talked last week. And
Okay.
I really do believe it is an excellent film or an excellent series. If you've not yet seen it, I really recommend you doing it. The acting is really superb. But
Hmm. Hmm.
we also, I saw that there's this new film that I have not yet seen, and it's called 13 Lives. It's directed by
Okay.
Ron Howard. It's all over. It just was released maybe 10 days ago. It's all over Amazon Prime right now. It's got Viggo Mortensen and Colin
Colin Farrell.
Firth,
Yeah.
Farrell, not Colin Firth, different Colin Farrell. And it's a dramatization of that true story of the Thai kids teen hiking group that got lost in a cave. This
Yeah.
happened a couple of years ago, and it's this really terrifying story. If you don't like caves, maybe it'll give you claustrophobic nightmares. But I'm excited about the film. But you were
Yes.
talking to me just yesterday about this.
Yeah, that's right. We were just talking about some documentaries and stuff that we'd been watching, and I was telling you that I'd watched one last year on Disney Plus, that National Geographic had done. It was called The Rescue, and it's about that story about rescuing that soccer team. These cave divers came in from England to basically put this rescue on, and it was very harrowing and very scary. And I'm sure this dramatization will likely be pretty good. With Ron Howard and pretty star-studded cast there. So definitely going to have to check that out. And another documentary that I'm just started to get into. It's 6 episodes long, but it's on Disney Plus. It's called Light and Magic, which it's basically a 6-part documentary about ILM, which is Industrial Light and Magic, which is the kind of the special effects studio that George Lucas put together. So obviously there's a lot of Star Wars stuff in there, but ILM does stuff for like every movie. All of these big technological advances, Jurassic Park, Terminator 2, like every kind of like touchstone of these big advances, ILM has had some part in. So that documentary kind of talks about that. So getting into that one, seems like it's going to be really good and really well done. And I think Lawrence Kasdan, actually, who's a pretty famous writer and director, is the one that actually did this documentary. So I definitely want to check that out. And yeah, check out 13 Lives because that sounds fun. But you know what else sounds fun, Michaela? That is going on a bit of a sugar binge, getting some Reese's Pieces, some Reese's peanut butter cups, throw in a little bit of vodka, and going on an adventure because that is what we were doing, an adventure 40 years in the making for us. So why don't we take a quick break and we will be right back to whip up this week's cocktail.
So this week's cocktail is, as you say, a bit of a sugar rush. Okay. I love it. I love what it's called. It's called a drunken peanut butter cup.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
And it's from
Two of
Open
our favorite
Drinks.
things. Two of our favorite
That's right.
things.
That's right. It's got Reese's Pieces. It's got Reese's peanut butter cups. It's got chocolate. It's got vodka. It's got milk. It's got all the things. It's got all the things. And this,
All the
we found
things.
this on Open Drinks IO. It looks amazing in the article that was written about it. And so we thought we would try and recreate this the best we can.
Hmm.
And it's a little intense. There's a lot of sugar in this. This is not for folks that can't have sugar. And I'm sorry,
Correct.
we didn't even try. We didn't even try to desugarize this because I don't think it's possible.
No,
So,
no. Yeah, so when we were looking up drinks to do for this week, we're doing the all-time classic ET. And one of the first things that you think of when you think about ET are Reese's Pieces, right? That's what Elliot is leaving out in the woods trying to get ET to follow him back home. That's what he's using, and that's what we are putting into our cocktail. And it starts with about a half a cup of Reese's Pieces. Michaela, you took these and you put them into 1 cup of vodka. You let that sit overnight, and I have to say, This particular step of the recipe did not look so great. It looked like we were off to a bad start.
Yeah. Word of the wise. If you're going to do this, just trust the process. Okay. You all need to trust the process because we did what it says. Okay. We put half a cup of Reese's Pieces in a glass jar and then we added vodka to the top and then we shook that sucker and put it in a fridge. And what happens is all the chocolate coating or the candy coating around these little Reese's peanut butter droplet
Hmm.
things,
Hmm.
that all goes away. It starts looking really orange, really gross. It's just doesn't look good. But boy, did it taste good when we finally put it together.
That's right. Yeah,
It,
it tastes like a sugary concoction. Doesn't look great, but tastes good. So yeah, just trust us. Just go with it. And that's what you're going to need to put this cocktail together. And then actually, it comes together pretty easily. That's kind of the only step, and that's not even that hard. You don't even have to boil water. We're not even asking you to do that this week. So take 1.5 ounces of that Reese's Pieces vodka, 1.5 ounces of that into a shaker tin, 1.5 ounces of milk, 1 ounce of chocolate liqueur. Shake that up with ice, and then you're going to put it into like a martini glass. And what you do with that martini glass is entirely up to you, and how much sugar you can tolerate.
right. It's really a choose your own adventure. So here's what we did with ours. We we dunked those suckers in peanut butter and then
Yep.
we have a beautiful, really fun Reese's Pieces rim kind of thing going all around the rim with the peanut butter. And then because that wasn't sweet enough, we also drizzled chocolate syrup in the glass itself. Word to the wise, if you do too much of that, you're going to end up needing a spoon to like go. It's
Mm,
going to
hmm,
end
hmm.
up being like a milkshake rather than a drink. So just a little less chocolate syrup, but you're going to shake everything in your tin, pour it in. It's going to be this like a dark, ours was a really dark chocolatey color,
Hmm.
because we used a really beautiful double chocolate liqueur. It's very good, and you're going to drink this now. It's real sweet, so it's like a meal. I wouldn't shoot this thing because you'll get a
Hmm.
sugar rush.
Yeah, you definitely will get a sugar rush, and it is good. It's very chocolatey. It's kind of just like a chocolate martini. Now, one of the criticisms I guess I had for it is, kind of when you initially take that first drink, you expect it to be a little bit more peanut buttery from that infused vodka, and ours wasn't. Maybe I don't know if we needed to let it sit longer, or I don't know what the case was, but ours wasn't. Our vodka was just very sugary tasting. It basically tasted like sugar. So I think if we were going to redo this, we would maybe skip that step and use like a vanilla vodka or something else to maybe kind of direct that sweetness in a little bit of a more direct way. We also thought that this would be fun to use one of those new like peanut butter whiskeys that you've seen out there. There's a couple of those. Screwball is a big one that I've had before, and those are really interesting and really super peanut buttery. So that might be kind of interesting to do like a riff on this with the whiskey as opposed to the vodka. But what do you think about this one, Michaela?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a lot more chocolatey than I was expecting. And I know we used a really high quality chocolate liqueur, but we did only use like half an ounce per drink of it. So I
Hmm.
was surprised at how chocolatey it was. It definitely was sweet enough. I definitely was glad that I didn't infuse the vodka and use a already flavored vanilla vodka or something because I'd thought about that. And
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
really glad that I talked myself out of that because that would have been way too much. I did go online and I found Terrasentia in Charleston, South Carolina. They actually make a peanut butter flavored vodka. So I
Oh,
think it
okay.
would be kind of interesting to if we make a trip down and I can get my hands on some. I think it'd be interesting to try this with that because I think you're right. The infusion worked really well to add the sweetness of it, but it was really just a hint of peanut butter. So the peanut butter that you're going to taste is really going to be from the peanut butter that you rimmed your glass with or the crushed Reese's Pieces that are kind of on the rim of the glass. It's really not in the drink itself. And that was the only thing that I really just wanted an extra dimension of that peanut butter taste.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, this was really good. It was really fun. And it looked really cool, kind of with all of the extra additions to it there. So, give this a try, or if you have any other good recommendations, give us a try. Or maybe you just want a Coors Banquet beer, which is what ET is going to find in the fridge for himself later as we talk about this movie. So, now that we have these made, Michaela, I need to have a glass of water so I can come down from the sugar high. But then I'm going to have another because it's delicious, and we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back to talk about this week's film, ET, the Extraterrestrial.
Spoiler warning for E.T. the Extraterrestrial. If you've not yet seen this, we're going to talk all about it. So, if you haven't seen it, our recommendation is for you to stop what you're doing right now. Go have a drunken peanut butter cup. Go watch the 1982 classic. Come back and we can chat about it.
That's right. That's right. If you haven't had a chance to see it, you've had plenty of time. As Michaela said, it came out in 1982 on June 11th, to be exact, which makes this film 40 years old, which is why we're going to be talking about it because we are very excited to be seeing this in IMAX. It is coming back to a handful of theaters and ours. We're lucky enough to have our theater be one of those ones that are reshowing it. So we are going and we're very excited about it. Came out in 1982, directed, of course, by Steven Spielberg, produced by Kathleen Kennedy, who now is running Lucasfilm, doing all the Star Wars stuff. This was scored by the maestro John Williams himself, and it stars Henry Thomas as Elliot, Drew Barrymore as his sister Gertie, and Robert McNaughton as his brother Michael. And it is a classic kids story, adult story. It's a classic of classics. At one time, this was the highest grossing film of all time, before it got beaten out by Steven Spielberg's film Jurassic Park. But everyone loves ET, right? Everyone.
Right. Everybody. I mean, most people. If you
Maybe
don't
like
love ET,
curmudgeon people might not like ET.
yeah. People who don't like crying in movie theaters maybe don't like this film because there is a lot of that. There's a lot of that. Oh,
That's right, and we're going to get into the story, but a little peek behind the curtains here. In my notes, it just says we get to a certain point of the movie, and then you just cry for the remainder of the thing. It's obnoxious, it is sad, it is uplifting, it is heartfelt, and it is exciting. So why don't we get into this one, Michaela? We'll just jump straight into it. We are going to the woods. We see I don't know, a spaceship. It looks kind of like an onion. It's awesome. There's a lot of lights on it. It's very smoky and spooky. We see some little creatures moving through the woods. We don't ever get a very clear look at them. And this is one of my favorite things about this movie. Steven Spielberg does an awesome job of kind of showing you just enough to keep you on the hook for all of this stuff. And we start out right here. We're seeing the little ETs running around, but we don't get a good look at them for right now. This car pulls in. Bad news. Bunch of dudes. Flashlights get out. They're shining them around. All of the ETs in the spaceship, they start to freak out. They're like, we got to get out of here. Time to go. Time to go. But our favorite little ET gets left behind.
that's right. Oh, and he's so
Maybe it starts crying right at the beginning. Maybe we just
we
start
don't
crying
know.
right out of the gate.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he might. Oh, yeah. And I do love this opening scene because you get a great look at the one of the people's kind of tool belt. It's got some keys jangling. You don't really know who he is. And that becomes a whole like signet for an entire character that we see throughout the film.
Who is referred to as Keys as his character name.
That's right. Which is really cool. Peter Coyote, you're awesome. Really love the beginning of this because we, like you said, we don't see what they are, but we have all of these context clues, and nobody has done that sort of thing the way Steven Spielberg does it, right? So even in Jaws, which we've covered here on Drink the Movies before, you don't see the evidence, you don't see the actual monster until the very end. It's the same kind of thing here. You don't see what they are, but they're small and they're crafty, and one of them's left behind, and it's so sad. And then we kind of cut over to this family scene. You got Elliot, his little sister Gertie, and Michael, who's entering his teenage years. Henry is the middle child, and there's all these kids hanging out over at their house. Mom's not around. Mom's at work, and they've decided to order a pizza. And so they're excited to go get this pizza. Elliot has been tagged to go get it from down the drive. If you look at this house, by the way, I don't know I don't know where it is. It's in the San Fernando Valley. It's a
Hmm.
beautiful house. It's
Yes.
beautiful then, and you still look at it. It's one of those houses where it still looks amazing. I would
Yeah.
love to live there. It's got these really beautiful tiled roof, and it's got like a shed to the side. And Elliot goes down, picks up the pizza, and he realizes that there's something in this shed, and he freaks
Hmm.
out, drops the pizza, goes in. By now, mom's home. Mom's like, "Why did everybody get a pizza? What is going on? Why are we not? What is happening? I didn't say you could do this." And
Yeah,
he's
that's
freaking out.
right. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, get the, like I really like the scene. All the kids are sitting around playing Dungeons and Dragons, and actually, to his credit, Elliot's brothers like, you have to ask, my friend if you can play Dungeons and Dragons with us, and he's like, yeah, you can play whatever, I don't care. Just go get the pizza. So he goes down and gets the pizza. He hears some noise. There's some stuff afoot. He thinks. He goes up to the shed, like you mentioned, and he tosses a baseball in there. The baseball gets tossed right back out, and of course, you freak out. That is not what you want to see when you're investigating something potentially spooky. He drops the pizza. He books inside. He tells them that something's out there. So they all grab like kitchen knives. All the kids do, and the mom's like, "What? Put those knives down. What are you doing?" So they all go outside to look. And this is one of the funniest parts of the movie, of course. So they go and they look, and they see little ET tracks, and they're like, "Oh, maybe it's the coyotes came back." So mom's like, "All right, kids, come back in." They just leave the pizza in the yard. They just step over the pizza and just
Totally
leave
leave
it
it. And
and
now they're
totally leave
mad
it.
at Elliot. They're mad at him because they're like, "How did you drop the pizza?" And then, of course, the mom's like, "How did you order a pizza? I didn't say you could order a pizza."
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's pretty funny, but Elliot knows what he saw. He's like something was in there. I know it. I just got to go prove it. So that night he goes back out. He's looking around. He looks in the shed. Can't see anything in the shed. He's kind of walking. There's like this field in behind the house. He's in the field and looking with his flashlight. And what do you see? He comes face to face with his very own extraterrestrial. It's very scared. Elliot is not as scared as I would be if I came face to face with ET. I've got to be honest. But that is our first meeting of these two.
Yeah, no, it's like this great horror movie-esque kind of moment, but then you're also feeling like maybe he's very friendly. And so he's in shock and he's scared, but he's not jumping around anymore screaming and yelling.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, he's got this great idea. He's going to lure this animal thing into his house. That sounds like a great idea. And what are you going to do that with? You're not going to do that with M&Ms. No, you're going to
No,
use Reese's Pieces, which
far superior
were
to
they
M&Ms.
far superior. And I think weren't they made specifically for this film?
Uh,
Because
uh,
they I heard that somewhere. I don't know if
I,
that's a
I, I don't know. I am not a candy
urban
historian,
legend.
but I know that when this movie came out, Reese's Pieces were the bomb. They're still the bomb today. They're even the bomb if you put them into some vodka and make them into a cocktail. But yeah, that's what he does. He sees little ET out in the field. He freaks out, of course, goes back inside. His brother and sister and mom are not believing that he has seen this thing, but he is bound and determined to approve it. So he goes out into the woods. He's leaving a little trail of the Reese's Pieces. We see their keys is also out in the woods, looking for this thing. And one of the really great things, we'll kind of talk a little bit about it, but we never see Key's face through the first half of the film. None of the adults, you don't ever see any of the adults' face until later. So that's another kind of really good kind of storytelling thing that Steven Spielberg is using through the first part of this film. So yeah, he leaves the Reese's Pieces. He goes back home. He's going to go and lay outside, as you do, waiting to see if ET shows back up. In the shed, you have the shed open, the lights shining out of it. But Elliot falls asleep, can't stay up all night. He's just a little kid. But does his trick work, Michaela? Does it work?
Totally works. Totally works. And I one thing I want to say, and I know we talk about the beginning of this film a lot because it sets the stage so beautifully. But one of my favorite scenes is later. I think it's later that night, maybe after ET kind of comes to the house. But there's this scene where they're supposed to be having dinner, and it looks like the mom has cooked, and she's not having a great day. And Elliot's trying to talk about what he saw. He's trying to talk about, and describe the animal or whatever. And she's like, "Look, no one's saying we don't believe you. We just don't really believe you." And the brother, Michael, is kind of being sullen. And he looks down and he says, well, Dad would believe me. And this kind of scene between the siblings, because of course the mom gets upset and she says, well, maybe you could call him and talk to him about it. And he says, oh no, she's in Mexico. Dad's in Mexico with Sally. And this is the first we've heard of a Sally. And then of course the
Hmm.
mom gets up, she walks out of the room and she's like, he doesn't even like Mexico. And she kind of breaks down. And then you see this kind of Three Musketeer kind of sibling moment between all three of them, where Gertie is saying, you know, that's not nice. She made mom sad. Michael is telling Elliot, hey, don't you think about anybody else's feelings for once? Because he's old enough to know what's happening.
Hmm.
Elliot seems kind of in the middle. And of course, Gertie's like, where's Mexico? I want to go to Mexico. What's Dad
Right.
doing in Mexico? And it's really beautifully shot because you see, like you said, you don't really see the mom's face. You see
Hmm.
this kind of outline of her in the other room, and she's obviously really upset, and she's saying things like, he doesn't even like Mexico, why would he go to Mexico with her? And her voice is breaking, and it's really like you're watching this very adult scene. And now I'm watching it as an adult, but when I was younger I
Hmm.
saw it from the kids perspective. It's one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, and you get once the dinner wraps up and Elliot kind of clears his stuff from the table and he goes over and he's looking out the window and just like the steam from the sink is coming up and you're seeing it from outside as like the window gets more and more kind of filled with this like steam from the sink coming up there. So it looks really great and yeah, that is kind of powerful. It kind of sets up this story, right? That maybe Elliot feels a little bit abandoned by his dad and he's really looking out striking out for some friendship because we don't really see Elliot with any of his own friends. We see his brother with his friends, kind of interacting with them, but maybe he feels a little bit lonely, and that's why he's so drawn to ET here. So, as we mentioned, he goes out into the woods. He leaves some Reese's Pieces, which lures ET back. It's probably I don't know. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie is just kind of that first time they get there. ET comes and he reaches out his hand and just drops the Reese's Pieces like back onto Elliot. He's like asleep there in a lawn chair, but gets him inside and they start having kind of their friendship. He's trying to teach ET all about Earth. I really love it. He pulls out all of his Star Wars toys. He's like this. He's like these are the fish and this is the shark and the shark eats the fish and this is money and all this stuff and we're seeing ET, and we're going to talk about the Academy Awards a little bit later, but ET looks amazing. He looks so good. It's like it's part of it is puppet, part of it is animatronic, part of it is like a costume that they had some actors and little kids wearing at various parts and the way that it comes together, but looks so good.
Looks so good and so sweet, like the way the facial expressions are at work. I
Mhm.
believe that's where the animatronics come in. He can make noise, and so he's starting to learn certain things. Gertie's about 7, and so she's watching some like back to school, like after school cartoons that are going through the letters of the alphabet. And ET is kind of learning to make the sounds, and he's very smart, and so he's kind of trying to learn all the things that Elliot's teaching him. And how sweet is it that like Elliot's trying to, get him kind of acclimated to the family without, at this point, he hasn't told any of the kids, any of his brothers or sisters that he has this alien. But he's trying to like, teach him all these things, which is so cool.
Mhm.
I mean, and the things that he's not teaching him is even cooler, right? Like the things that are
Yep.
important, that Elliot feels are important. I thought that was a really interesting part of it.
Yeah, because if you're 8 or 9, like what is important to you, right? And it's your Star Wars figures. So, like these are the things you need to know, right? If you're like a
Absolutely.
like a 9 or 10 year old, but yeah, he brings him into the house, and he's gonna fake being sick the next day at school. It's very I was gonna say it's Ferris Bueller-esque, but that came after. So I guess Ferris Bueller was very ET-esque in that, but he fakes being sick to stay home from school with ET. That's when he's teaching him all these things, learning what kind of foods he's gonna eat and all that stuff. And then when his brother and sister get home from school, he's going to introduce them to ET. Don't tell mom. Don't tell adults. I've got this. I've got what does he say? He's got like ultimate power or something,
Yes,
like
I
over
have
like the
ultimate
decision
power. And he
over the
wants,
decisions for this. And yeah, it's really great as he's introducing his brother and little Gertie to ET there.
yeah, yeah, no, I love it where he says, I want your most excellent promise. And then, of course, they reuse that, right? Because they end
Hmm.
up telling mom, hey, mom, this is happening. And so, of course, Gertie's just like, oh, it's a play friend that I can dress up and, put makeup on. And And ET just totally lets that happen. And it's really a cute scene. Because
Yep.
of course the brothers are like, gosh, what have you done? Don't do that to him, you
Yeah.
know?
And if ET was more easily startled, he would have snapped and done something bad, right? Because every time someone meets him, they just scream like Gertie like shrieks. The dog comes in, they yell. Everyone just like screams at ET when they meet ET. So that's not great. There's a lot of screaming by all of these kids in the first the first part of the movie, but yeah, it's really great. They get introduced to him, and then yeah, the next day you can only fake being sick and skipping out on school one day. So the next day you have to go to school, but we're learning some things about ET and Elliot. And that they have kind of this like ET's kind of like this empath, right? So they have this sort of like this like connection like through like mind and space and time, and they kind of can sense the same things and feel the same things. So you get this really fantastic section of ET like just being at home like by himself, and like the stuff that he's seeing is being mirrored by Elliot as he's at school. And one of the kind of standout scenes, something that I always remember about ET, is the scene of Elliot. He's in class, they're getting ready to dissect frogs. And ET's watching the show on TV, and then Elliot's like, he's like, no, we have to set them free, and they just let all of the frogs go. It's a pretty great scene, but I love ET just at the house, like kind of hanging out, like half wanting to go home and like half being just interested in humanity, I guess.
Yeah. And beer.
And beer,
Don't
Coors
forget the beer
Banquet,
part.
Coors
Yep.
Coors
Coors
Banquet.
Banquet. My son's grandpa Dick is like, hey, this is awesome. I love it. It's product placement exactly where it should be. I didn't even know that was real, but apparently it was. And so we've got the alien is drinking some beer, watching like this I think it's a Western where it's John Wayne, and John Wayne finally kisses Maureen O'Hara, and there's this moment where they've let all the frogs out of their little jars, and Elliot is has this crush, and he finally gets enough courage after I guess because ET has kind of given him and willed him the idea to go ahead and do this. He stands up and gives her this kiss, and it's very sweet, and all of these things are kind of happening.
And it's framed exactly as what ET is watching on the TV. So you'll see him like go in, and he like pulls like the girl like back out like from outside of the door and stuff, and then like jumps up like on this other kid to kiss her. So it's like it's the same exact framing as what ET is seeing on the TV.
Yeah, and it's very sweet. And you do feel for the frogs. I remember watching this scene, and this probably stuck out with me more than anything, probably from the first time I watched it, because I was so young. But I remember wanting the frogs to be free too, because they put them in these jars, and then they put them they have these chloroform soaked cotton balls. I never did that in high school. I don't know, or in middle school. We didn't, they came to us already dead. Okay. We didn't have to kill them. But so that was interesting. And you've got this faceless teacher who was like, you don't have to look if you don't want to watch them go to sleep. And of course, Elliot's like, they're free. They're living things. Let's let them out. It was really great. But he gets in trouble because you can't let out 300 frogs out of the science room.
That's right. Yeah, it's bad news. Mom gets called, and she's going to have to come pick you up. That's what happens if you break the rules at school, kids. Your parents get called, and you get into trouble. So, yeah. So Elliot's mom, she's there at home with Gertie. She's like, says, Gertie, you have to stay here for like 10 minutes. I got to go pick up your brother. So what does Gertie do? Gertie has a new best friend and play friend in ET. So she's going to dress him up. Has like a wig and like this crazy like old lady sweater on ET, which is pretty awesome. But ET learns something in that day by himself. He's reading through the comic strips. I think it was a Buck Rogers comic, and it says something about phoning or calling home. And then, of course, that's when we get ET phone home, as he starts saying, because Gertie's doing an awesome job. She's teaching him how to talk. ET, way smart, can already talk like after a day. Obviously far more intelligent than us, for sure. But he gets this idea that he can phone home. He can call up his people in the spaceship and say, hey, come back and pick me up. You totally left me here. That was a bad call. So when Elliot gets home and he sees ET all dressed up, he's like, what are you doing, Gertie? Get out of here. But ET phone home, plan is hatched.
That's right. They're gonna they get this great idea. They're going to go into their garage and they're going to get a whole bunch of stuff, just random stuff, and they're going to give it to ET, and he's going to be able to figure out how to turn all of that into some sort of radio or communication device to
Hmm.
tell his ship, "Hey, you forgot me. Come back and get me, people or aliens, whatever."
That's right.
And it's amazing. I loved watching this scene recently because they pick a bunch of random stuff like a coffee cup holder thing, and
Hmm.
like a butter dish, a couple of like a spelling computer from the 1980s that was like spell cat, and you would type in CAT and it would say
Hmm.
correct. A lot of I think it was called a speak and spell anyway. So there's lots
Hmm.
of like
Hmm.
a record player, it looks like there's a bunch of chords from like old telephones, and just like a saw. So, of course, there's a blade, like a circular blade saw. You need that, and it's not without danger, right? I mean, Elliot's actually cuts his hand, and
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
see that not only does ET and Elliot have this connection where things kind of happen to both of them at the same time, but ET can heal him by
Hmm.
giving off some of his energy, and he's got like a finger that glows, and it's really cool. And so they go off into it. They decide, I guess it's on Halloween night, they decide to go and try and make this communicator work.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So you have ET. He's got his new communicator. And yeah, that's one of the powers that ET has, right? He can heal Elliot. He heals his finger. He's healed these flowers that had died that Gertie had brought up to the room for him to have, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of one of his abilities. But you can't just set up a communicator to phone home at your house. You got to go out into the woods to do it. And how do you get ET out of the house without anyone knowing? Because it's an alien and you haven't told your mom yet. So you're basically going to throw a sheet over top of him. Say that you're going to dress up like a ghost. You tell your little sister Gertie that I don't care if you want to be a cowgirl, you're going to be a ghost. You can be a cowgirl later. No big deal. No big deal. So she goes out to the park to wait for him, and they take ET out. You get a really fun scene where mom's like, "Oh, let me take your picture," and she's like fumbling around. She gets so excited, and it's totally ET under the sheet, and he's kind of waddling him around. But then you get like kind of the best, most iconic bit of ET is that Elliot's going to throw ET up into the front basket on his bicycle. They're going to go, and they are going to fly up through the sky. ET says, "This is taking too long, bro. I need to make my phone call right now. Let's hit the gas here." They go up. You get that shot of him flying, across in front of the moon. As Elliot's like dressed up in his costume, and ET's there kind of under this little sheet in the front basket. They're going, and they land in the woods. They get this thing set up. It's really cool when you see it start working as like the trees are blowing and it's pulling this like saw blade back and forth with like a fork that they rigged up. It's pretty cool. So they phone home, but bad news is that ET is going to get scared, runs off. Elliot falls asleep, wakes up. ET is nowhere to be found. Bad news. It's looking like trouble from here on out for our boy and his pet alien.
Yeah, it's not a good day the next morning because of course Elliot hasn't come home. He wakes up. Um, he's not feeling great. Um, he gets home. Everybody's freaking out. The mom is really upset. She's
The
trying
police
to
are there, of
remember.
course,
The
because
police are there. She's trying to remember what he was wearing. She was like, "Oh, he was a he was going to be the Hunchback of Notre Dame." And one thing that I thought was interesting too is the costumes. Like Michael was going to be like a I guess he was going to be a terrorist, and that was in poor taste even then, which is good to know. But he's got like a hat with a hacksaw across the top of it. He's going out with his friends, and they're all still in their costumes, waiting for Elliot to come home. He comes home, but he is really sad because he couldn't find ET, and he's also really sick. So Michael goes out trying to find if there's any more signs of ET, finds ET in like this culvert thing. He does not look the way that he did. His skin was like kind of a brown pink, uh, kind of fair type. And
there's
now
a
he's like,
raccoon checking him out.
there's a raccoon that's like, this looks pretty tasty. Could I eat it? I don't know. And he scares the raccoon off, but ET now doesn't look normal. He's really pale. he's not wiggling the way that he was. His feet aren't moving.
Hmm.
We all think he's dead for for a split second, but Michael is able to get him back home.
That's right. That's right. And that's where really the sad bits of the story really start to take hold. You get like in the very next scene. This one's really tough. I think that this is really sad because then you have the brother and sister, Michael and Gertie are there in the bathroom with Elliot who's starting to get sick, and ET who's just like laid down like on his back, like passed out looking. Basically, he's very like ashen and gray looking, and that's when Michael's like, we got to tell mom, right? You're sick. We gotta fill her in. So he goes down, he gets the mom, and that's when he's like, you have to make the most excellent promise that you're not going to freak out. She says okay. She doesn't withhold that promise because she does freak out, rightfully so. Your mom, you don't know what's going on, so she tells Michael to grab Gertie, get out of there. She grabs Elliot. She's like, what the heck is that thing? At first, she thinks it's like a toy or like a game that they're playing with, but then ET kind of rolls his head over and says something to her, and she freaks out. So they get out of there. And then what do? You go down, there's a knock on the door, and it is the government in full on space suits. They're here because they know that you have ET. Keys has cracked the case, I guess.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting, he's been listening to like various radios, and I guess he's got this microphone that can listen inside houses. So like for the last
Mm-hmm,
couple of
mm-hmm.
days, he's been listening to different houses, and he's had a feeling that it was in this house where ET was, but he didn't have proof. Now he has proof. I don't quite understand all of that because it happens very fast, but they basically turn the entire house, which was beautiful. They've got like now hazmat suits on. They've got
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
this plastic door chamber that they've made from like the front door to the back of this van. They've got about 100 different scientists that are poking and prodding at ET and asking a bunch of questions to the mom. Of course, the
Mm-hmm.
dad's still nowhere in sight. She's like, I don't know what's going on. And they're like, what, can he read brains? Can he melt metal? And the kids are really shocked. And poor Elliot is just really not well. And they're kind of laying Elliot next to ET. Elliot's trying to
Mm-hmm.
tell ET that he's right here, that he's not going to leave him. And it's really sad because they've got both of them all like hooked up to things. And they keep saying that they're connected, but the Keys character is like, I don't know what that means. We got to keep him alive. We got to keep all these things alive. And it just becomes this really traumatic kind of moment between Elliot and ET, because ET,
Mm-hmm.
I think, rewatching it, I think he kind of decides to let that connection break so that
Mm-hmm.
Elliot can continue to get better. But that means ET continues to deteriorate. And it's really hard because, he's just a kid and he doesn't understand. And of course, they try and wheel Elliot away and he's losing his mind. He's like, no, he's mine. He's mine. Take care of him. Don't hurt him.
Mm-hmm.
It's really
Yeah,
awful.
yeah,
It's very traumatic.
it's very traumatic. It's really sad. I do love the way kind of that they decided to do the house where they put like this big like plastic like tent kind of thing over the house, and then it's got like the plastic tubes and stuff that the people are moving through as they're trying to contain that and their hazmat stuff. I love that. And then yeah, it's pulling at the heartstrings. You're watching that, like even like Michael and Gertie and the mom are kind of standing off in the wings, and mom is seeing how much that this is really having an effect on Elliot, like how attached he is. And yeah, like you said, I think that ET kind of is like, all right, I gotta break this off because I'm gonna kill this kid or I'm gonna kill both of us. So basically I can just take all this on my own. So Elliot starts getting better, ET starts getting worse, and then they think that ET died. And up until this point, I think that this is one of the really interesting things about the film is that Keys is like this villain character, right? You don't see his face really. You just see the keys clacking around, you see him looking, you're like, oh, he's looking for ET, he's up to no good, he's up to no good. But then kind of in this section, he walks in his hazmat suit, he pulls this like the hood thing off of it, and that's the first time you see his face, and that's, other than the mom, that's the first time then you start seeing the other adult's face. But Keys isn't really there as a bad guy. I mean, you still don't really fully understand what his kind of his angle is on this, but he goes and he talks to Elliot and he's like, oh, he's like, you've done such a good job taking care of him. I've been looking for him since I was 10, which I guess probably is about the same age that Elliot is supposed to be. And really seems, genuinely kind of concerned about it. And then when they think that ET has died, Keys is like, here, go take, have some time, have a last couple minutes alone with them. And he, kind of clears the room so Elliot can be with them. And that's when the story kind of turns. So apparently the phone that ET has built has worked. His people are coming back for him. And you'll see that's kind of the way that they communicate. At the first part, you'll see like this glowing bit in their chest, and it's like their heart kind of lighting up, and that must be how they communicate with each other. So it starts lighting up. Elliot misses it at first, which is pretty sad. But as he's walking out, he sees those dead flowers. They start to perk back up a little bit. That catches his eye, runs back in, realizes that ET is alive. He sees the glowing chest. He's like, "Are your people coming back?" And ET's like, "Yeah, get me out of here." So that's what they do. They're wheeling him out. But thankfully, you have an older brother who can drive a car in reverse sometimes, forward sometimes. They're gonna steal that van and ET and get out of there.
They're gonna slide down that tunnel of plastic. They've got this whole thing figured out. They told Gertie the plan. They're like, "All right, let's go, girl." And she does what she's supposed to do. They offer a distraction. They end up getting ET. They're driving. Then all of the other kids, I love this because everybody finally realizes what they're up to, that ET's okay, and that they're trying to get him away. And so they start to give chase, and all of the other friends who all have BMX bikes driving around, they continue to help. And there's some really great kind of chase scenes. What's interesting is in different versions of this where they've remastered the movie and brought it back out and went back and did a theater review, they've made some changes. So in the original, all of kind of the FBI agents, they all have weapons, whether they're handguns or like shotguns. In I guess 2000, I think maybe
2002. It was the 20th anniversary edition. Yep.
Yeah. They came back and they kind of CGI'd all the guns out and had radios instead. It was kind of interesting, the reasons why they made those changes, but you can see that they don't know this ET, right? They don't know if this thing is dangerous or not. So they're in the mindset they're trying to protect these kids, and the kids are like, "It's fine." And of course, ET is still riding with Elliot and all of the other kind of Michael's other friends are riding their bikes. They go ahead and use that force again, that lifts them up in the air, and they fly everywhere. And one of the friends is like, "I'm going to be sick. Just tell me when it's over." And then that was the kid who was really kind of bullying towards Elliot and telling him he didn't believe him when he was saying, "Hey, something happened and I saw something." Now he's the one who's like, "Oh, I'm terrified." And ET's like, "Man, this is the best day ever. We're flying through the air. It's fine." And instead of flying across the moon, they fly across the setting sun, which is really beautiful. It's a beautiful scene because they got to get to the woods. They got to get back to where the phone is, man.
That's right. You got to get to where the phone is, where the spaceship was coming. And I love the bicycle chase scene. It's so awesome with all the different police. And I don't even know if they are FBI. I think all the cars are just marked as like U.S. government or something. So they're kind of this like non-entity kind of a thing, which I thought is pretty great. But yeah, they're on this kind of chase through there. I love the way that looks. They're going like up and down these hills and things, and they get back just in time as the spaceship is there. Mom and Keys come close behind with Gertie in the car, so they all kind of get there all at this head as the kids are getting there to the spaceship, and the spaceship comes down. It lands, it opens the ramp, and then ET gets one final goodbye. He gets a goodbye with Gertie, goes up to him first, and she gives him the little potted plant, which is really sweet. And he says to her, "Be good," which is kind of the first thing that she taught him how to say, and is a good life lesson for all of us. Michael comes up to him and to say his goodbye to ET, and ET says thank you to him. And then of course he sets the flower pot down just in time for Elliot to come up and get his own goodbye. And he starts it off. He kind of, they're just looking at each other. It's very silent, and ET kind of points to his heart and then up to his lips and says, "Ouch." Because that's how they're communicating. And then Elliot does the same thing, and ouch. And yeah, ouch, you're breaking my heart. What is wrong with you, Steven Spielberg? How you're like a monster of making me feel
so much
all
better
the
when
emotions.
it was so much better when it was just a giant a giant shark that was killing everyone. This is horrible. I'm getting teary just talking about it. Oh my gosh. So yeah, he looks at him. They kind of have this moment where ET, his little finger is glowing, and he says, I'll be right here. And he points to Elliot's head, and he's got this single tear. I don't know how many times they shot this scene, but it is just achingly perfect in this goodbye and really hard to watch.
Yep. And they give they have a hug, and like ET's hands kind of come around him, and it looks really cool, kind of his long fingers as they're like embracing, and then they say goodbye. He goes up onto the ship. Of course, the dog, Elliot's dog is gonna run up the ramp and then come back, and they just kind of watch as ET goes. You get a really it's a really beautiful shot as kind of the door closes, and it like kind of, I don't know, like lenses like circle like in to close off ET there. It looks really cool, and then that's where it ends. And to make matters worse than all of this emotions, you just have John Williams just going nuts with the score right here. It is like if what's going on screen isn't making you sad enough, just a John Williams score is also going to make you sad. Like you can't even listen to it without being sad about it. But yeah, beautiful story. One for the ages, of course, 40 years on. And Michaela, this one resonated all around the world with everyone, because as I mentioned, this was one of the highest grossing films of all time until Jurassic Park knocked it off. This opened June 11th, 1982. It did worldwide almost $800 million. And maybe it'll get to $800 million because you and I saw this week, and glorious IMAX. Looked so beautiful. It was at, I think like 500 some movie theaters were showing it. Ours was one that was, and we said, you know what? We have to watch E.T. again. Been too long since we watched E.T., had a good cry, and here we are.
And here we are. Yeah, it's definitely made it to the top 10 most like tearjerker films of all time. It's consistently in like the top 10. I think when it came out for its 20th anniversary, they did another thing and it was like number 8. It was so beautifully done, and I was so excited to see it in the theaters because I'd never seen it in the theater before. I was too young to watch it in the theater when it came out. And so fun fact, this was Michaela's very first VHS of all time. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. Very nice.
So it was amazing to see it on the big screen. And I got to see it with my son, which was so great because we rode the ET ride when we were at Universal, and he immediately fell in love with ET. He didn't know anything about it, but he was like, who is this? Who is this character? We took some pictures because at the end of the ride, you can take pictures with like ET all dressed up. And he was like, this is amazing. I can't wait. And we knew then that we were going to do this film. If it was going to come out, we'd be able to go see it in the theater. So we've been saving it for him. So I was so excited to finally share this with him. And he's old enough now to really get it. Absolutely loved it. The circle is continuing. The circle is unbroken.
the circle is unbroken. Yeah, we did. We rode that ride at Universal Studios in Orlando this year. That ride opened in 1990 at Universal Studios Orlando, so it's the only original ride from Universal Studios in Orlando. It also opened at Universal Studios in Hollywood and I think in Tokyo, but they have since closed the ride, which means that Universal Studios Orlando is the best Universal Studios. You can go on our @s and let me know if you feel differently about that, but you're wrong. Because they have the ET ride in Orlando, and that's all you need. And what else do you need if you're ET is you need some Academy Awards. It won a lot. It was nominated for a lot more, but it won 4. So it won for Best Sound, Best Visual Effects, Best Sound Effects, and Best Original Score, because that original score is slamming. But it did lose some. It lost Best Picture, Best Director, Best Original Screenplay, Best Cinematography, and Best Editing. Gandhi came out that year. That won most of those other awards for being the best at everything. But I didn't see Gandhi in IMAX for 40 years later. Did you? No, I saw E.T., Michaela.
That's right. So I think what's interesting.
No offense to Mahatma Gandhi. No
offense to Gandhi. It's interesting, and this is a great case of great films that and what they do from a film perspective over the course of time, right? Because I think
Hmm.
anybody can say, it makes sense in 1983 when the Academy Awards were held. Gandhi definitely won. It was a very big historical story. That needed to be told. There were a lot of things going on in the early 80s that people felt were kind of emulating from, Gandhi's life, and it was really important. But you're right, 40 years later, I don't know anybody who's actually seen Gandhi that's my age except film buffs. So really interesting. However, everybody's seen ET. Everybody knows who ET is. We still have Reese's Pieces still says it's ET's favorite candy, like still to this day.
Hmm.
Mars is still upset that they didn't allow M&Ms to be used instead. I guarantee it. So, it's interesting because this movie has stood the test of time. Whether they're radios or guns in the people's hands going after the kids, it's really, really heartfelt, beautiful, beautiful story of a little boy who's just needed a friend and wanted to be a friend. Oh, so good.
That that's right, and was a good friend, and broke everyone's heart and made them cry throughout. So that is E.T. Let us know what your memories are with E.T. because chances are, especially if you're still listening to us at this point, that you've probably seen E.T. once or twice, and we want to know all about that stuff, and we want to know all about any sort of peanut butter cup or Reese's Pieces martinis that you might make or might try to emulate. So let us know that. Take pictures, send us comments, all that good stuff on our Instagram and Twitter. It's at Drink the Movies, and on Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of our peanut butter chocolatey goodness, get the recipe, get episode recaps, get all of our other recipes, because this is episode 90, so we have 89 other episodes worth of recipes. Go to our website, www.drinkthemovies.com, and you can get all of that good stuff. You can see links to the episodes, and that takes you primarily to Spotify and Apple iTunes, where you should go and leave us a review. But Michaela, where else can they find the podcast?
You can find us on Good Pods. You can find us
Yes.
on Stitcher. You can find us on Stitcher. I
Hmm. Hmm.
forget some of these names. We are everywhere where Anchor podcasts are distributed. So find your favorite Anchor podcast distributor. It could be Spotify. It could be Apple. It could be all of those things.
Hmm. Hmm.
We do 2 drops a week. If you're liking what you're hearing at Drink the Movies, a lot of other people are. Please leave a 5-star review. Help build this community. Tell your friends because we love cocktails, we love films, and we love you.
That's right. We love you and we love ET, and I love this drink. So, Michaela, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go whip us up another one of these because I think we both need one after getting through this one, having the heartstrings tugged at. But a good drink is always going to help with that. So let's go mix up another one, and we will talk to everyone next time on Drink
Drink the
the Movies.
Movies.
I'll be right here.
I'll be right here.